It's been 6 days, and over 6 days, the objectives of Russia have not been achieved just yet. Putin's flatten Ukraine game plan is what we are hearing about now as part of this latest piece of breaking news. Vladimir Putin's flatten Ukraine game plan is now doing the rounds. This game plan, we hear, is the use of missiles to target residential areas. For example, what has just happened in Kharkiv, where a historical government building has just been blown up, vacuum bombs being used by Russia during the invasion, city squares are under attack, and that image of a cruise missile smashing into a government building in Kharkiv city could be a symbol of the scale of the attack being taken to the next level on day 6. Gaurav Sawant, live with us from the city of Kiev. Gaurav, all indications now are that things are going to the next level. They already have in this video of a cruise missile attack in Kharkiv. The same thing could be seen in Kiev very soon. What's happening right now on the ground, Gaurav?
Shiv, right now it's all about air raid sirens, all about ducking into bunkers, and all about desperately trying to leave the city. This is the Kiev central station where people from across the country in this region are just desperately coming here, taking the first available train out and trying to get out of here. The government of India also now has issued an advisory. In fact, it's more than just an advisory. It's a warning of sorts, telling all Indians to leave Kiev as urgently as possible, as quickly as possible. And perhaps the indication is, and when we've been speaking to officials, their indication is leave by nightfall today. The pace at which the Russian assault is coming, the pace at which that 64-kilometer long convoy that you're talking about, the military convoy with armored personnel carriers and tanks and missiles and artillery guns and Grad rockets coming this way, are all an indication of what's already happening in Kharkiv, the second largest city that we were reporting from earlier this week, to what's happening, or what's likely to happen on ground here. When you look all around me, not as crowded as it was yesterday, because people are still in air raid bunkers. Just a short while back, there was that siren, so people still taking some time to come out of those bunkers and come here. But if you just look around with packets, whatever they're able to gather, people are reaching here and they're trying to leave. It's cold, it's snowing, it's wet, and there's just this very urgent desperation in the eyes of people when they want to leave. Not enough trains, not enough cars, not enough vehicles to leave this city under siege, where the situation is likely to deteriorate, given the fact now on social media, and information is viral here very quickly, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook or on Telegram, which is very popular here. On Telegram, that information going that this is where the forces have reached, this is where they are being fought, and this is where things stand. So when we talk about the situation on ground, the fact that you're talking about the use of a vacuum bomb, the fact that you're talking about the use of a cruise missile on an administrative building, we were reporting from in front of that building just last week. That building has now been reduced to rubble. So the information here is in Kiev that whether it's government buildings, military installations, strategic points, or even civilian areas, the aim is to break the will of the people to fight, and that is why everyone and everything will be fair game in the Russian assault, and that is what is prompting people to leave the city as quickly as possible.
Gaurav, how far away is that Russian convoy? We have images, satellite images of that Russian convoy. We'll put them on our screens in a moment. It's a large 64-kilometer long convoy that we are talking about, the largest, that has been seen so far, in this invasion. It appears to be, a very tried and tested, conventional style, armored, siege of the city of Kiev that's coming up. Do we know how far away this convoy is, Gaurav?
Not just as yet, though. We know it's coming from the north. We know all the way, from Belarus to Chernobyl, that area is completely in control of the Russians. And even beyond, the resistance hasn't been all that strong, is the information that we have been given through people here. The second aspect of this is, Shiv, the wait for whether it's surface-to-air missiles or it is for anti-tank guided missiles or even aircraft. You know, you were talking just a short while back about the West, the European Union funding the resupply of weapons and systems and ammunition for Ukraine. While those funds may take some time, but we are told the Parliament here, the Ukrainian Parliament has issued a statement saying Ukrainian pilots are already in Poland to bring 70 aircraft. They are both MiGs and MiG-29 Fulcrum and Su-27s that the pilots here have already flown. They're off on these aircraft. Those aircraft are being given. Retired pilots are now being called to join active service and protect their land. But the question remains, Shiv, even if they get those aircraft, they fuel up there, they load up with ammunition, bombs and rockets there. Where do they land back? Will Poland permit, or Bulgaria or other countries, will they permit them to land back, refuel, rearm and then strike again? And would that not make those countries, enemies of Russia, so to say? Russia has already warned other countries not to interfere and intervene here. Or are these just morale boosting tactics where the parliament here issues a statement so that soldiers on ground continue to fight, thinking that yes, we are getting more anti-tank guided missiles, yes, we are getting more surface-to-air Stinger missiles and other arms and ammunition that are desperately required, including anti-tank grenades and small arms that are needed for people to take on this big 64-kilometer long Russian convoy that you see that's advancing from one direction. We are also told here that there's another assault which is coming from the south side. Will they link up and then lay siege or launch an attack from multiple flanks? Still remains to be seen, which is what is keeping people here on edge, Shiv.
You know, Gaurav, some of the NATO countries, surrounding countries, have decided to pump in air power directly to Ukraine. Obviously, they're not going to fly in defense of Ukraine, but, countries like Poland, Slovakia and others have all decided to send in large numbers of MiG-29. At last count, we're told at least 5 squadrons of additional MiG-29s and Su-25s are going to be, in Ukrainian hands, maybe in a day or two, however long it takes for that to actually happen. Are you expecting to see a big flare-up in the use of air power? Because if you've got such large convoys, the only way that the Ukrainians will perhaps be able to beat it back is through air power, Gaurav.
Air power and disruptive technology, you're absolutely right. But Shiv, the question is, fine, they take off from those countries, and this is what the government here is saying, that 70 pilots have been sent to those countries to fly those aircraft. So they fuel up from those countries, load up from those countries, but where will they land? Will they be able to land anywhere in any of the airfields here? Majority of those that have already been targeted by the Russians using, their cruise and ballistic missiles. 14 airfields have been targeted in Ukraine in the past week, past 6 days of the attack, and they have been flattened. Their radars are down. There was one image that the defense minister and the chief of their army staff or the security tweeted of the use of a Turkish kamikaze drone. But only one such image and only one such targeting. What about this 64-kilometer long convoy? Are they waiting for it to come closer to target it? Why have more of these disruptive technologies, including UCAVs, not been used just as yet? What is likely to happen in the hours ahead, even if not the days ahead, is the big question as people desperately try to leave. Because if Ukraine has the firepower, they have the will, and that has been seen in the past 6 days. The people of Ukraine have the will. The people of Ukraine have the will to fight. That is very, very clear, and that wasn't restricted to any one city. Kharkiv, where Russians did have a lot of sympathy, that's witnessing such a fierce battle. Imagine how fierce the battle would be in the West, where anti-Russia sentiment is much stronger than what it was in that region that's bordering Russia. So Russia hasn't been able to make deeper inroads in the East. They haven't been able. They've mounted a massive RT and and missile assault in various cities, including in Mariupol and in Donetsk and Luhansk area. But are they completely in control of Donbass? The battle still continues, and which is where the apprehension is. This could lead to a prolonged siege, a long fight, and the desperation to leave is if bridges are blown, if the rail track is blown, then how do people get out of Kiev once the siege starts, Shiv?
And you know, the troubling part, the troubling question, and it is really sad that one needs to be asking this, Gaurav, right now, is one is wondering whether Putin can take Kyiv or other cities without flattening them entirely. You know, he certainly has the conventional weaponry to bring a lot of damage to Kiev, but is that what the plan is? Ultimately, you know, to impose a change of regime, he needs to take strategic control of the, you know, the key military sites and the key administrative sites. Is he going to be able to achieve that without, you know, ruining Kyiv? And Russia has ruined a lot of cities when it has invaded in the past.
It indeed has, Russia indeed has, and this is what is making the Russian President Vladimir Putin hugely unpopular in Ukraine and in a lot of countries of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, that he's flattening city after city. This has also now become a battle of prestige for the Russian president. The people here say the Nazis lost in Kharkiv in Second World War, where millions may have died, but this is where Nazi Germany was completely defeated. Is this where Russia will also meet? If I may, it's Waterloo. The question still remains, with the best Russian equipment, and even India uses a lot of Russian equipment. They have the best in firepower, in tanks, in missiles, in the missile defense system, in all of that. And yet it's taken them day 6 and they're still not in control either of Kharkiv or Kyiv. So what is, one, either holding them back, two, not letting them take over these cities? The NATO exercises that were carried out, the Ukrainian army, and we've been saying this, I mean, since we're repeating, at the cost of repeating it, Shiv, the fact remains, the Ukraine of 2022 has carried out a series of military drills and exercises with NATO countries. Their tactics, their training, their operations, they've changed completely from 2014 loss of Crimea. And subsequently, there are also Western mercenaries who are not just guiding this operation but also participating in this operation at a tactical level. So strategic guidance is there, tactical leadership is there. Ukrainian themselves have 8 years of experience and NATO grade weapons that they've succeeded in stalling the Russian advance so far. And it remains to be seen how long will they continue to succeed with the existing firepower that they have. Another, $500 million of equipment they already have. Another $200 million of equipment may just come their way soon. Whether it's the same axis that will be used where the refugees are going towards the Poland border, is that where equipment will also come in? And is that, is that also that will happen? It remains to be seen. Will it be airdropped? Is that airspace completely in control of Russia? These are multiple aspects that will guide this battle in the hours and days ahead, Shiv.
You know, this is a situation that is rapidly escalating, and on India Today, we haven't been saying that, just like that, because the images are so compelling from in and around Kiev, also from Kharkiv city, like you see this image on your screen right now. There can be no exaggerating, especially for a channel that has reporters like Gaurav Sawant on the ground. He's been there for nearly a month now, reporting relentlessly on what's been happening in Ukraine. We are able to sift through much of the misinformation that's coming in. And where we have a single bit of a doubt about whether something is dodgy or iffy or dubious, Gaurav is there on the ground to tell us we can't confirm this. So please trust India Today's coverage. You already are. It's the reason why Gaurav Sawant happens to be the most watched Indian reporter on the ground at this point of time. He's being watched, quoted, and analyzed by people all across India and all across the world. That's one of the reasons why India Today is the most watched channel on the Ukraine crisis. But getting back to the story, once again, is this cruise missile attack that's just taken place in the city of Kharkiv. That's a government administrative building very close to the Freedom Square. in Ukraine's second largest city that appears to have been struck by a cruise missile. This video is being put together by the Ukrainian government as the first, most compelling, most unsettling visual evidence of a civilian area, a place that has nothing to do with the military, being deliberately attacked by cruise missiles. Gaurav, you know, this particular video that we were talking about just a short while ago, the Ukrainians say cruise missiles have devastating accuracy. Artillery can cause, can go wrong. It can have collateral damage. It can be explained away sometimes as, shells veering off course. Ballistic missiles can also have, an error probability. But cruise missiles specifically are designed for, very, very small error circles. Circular error probability is very small in cruise missiles. And that's also one of the reasons, Gaurav, that this video is going to be difficult to defend for the Russians. A cruise missile attack hitting a government building.
Shiv, you're absolutely right, because the Russian equipment is world class. This is in fact why Russian equipment is for any non-NATO country, it is the most chosen weapon. And a cruise missile with its deadly accuracy, with its pinpoint accuracy, it was intended to hit this building, and the manner in which it's penetrating that building and blasting just goes on to indicate that the aim was to take down a building. The aim very, very clearly appears to be break the will of the people to fight, because Kharkiv has been fighting back. This is not something that the Russians may have expected, with a majority of Russian-speaking population, with majority of those considered to be very sympathetic towards Russia. The impression was Kharkiv would be a cakewalk, barely 25 kilometers from the border, but it hasn't been a cakewalk. There have been multiple attempts, and multiple attempts were beaten back. The government in Ukraine lost control of Kharkiv and yet mounted a counter-attack to take it back. Again is an indication of very sound military strategy and tactics being adopted by the Ukrainians, that if you lose a city, if you lose control of a city, you do not retreat. You regroup, rearm and relaunch an attack before the enemy has been able, or the adversary has been able to turn around its defenses. They've taken the city, but they still have to set up the defenses, and the Russians weren't in a position to set up defenses, and they were beaten back. Now this is where perhaps the desperation came in for the use of cruise missiles to break the will of Kharkiv to fight the Russians should the next assault be mounted. Because on Ukrainian media, on Ukrainian social media, there are viral videos of ATGMs destroying Russian armor, destroying Russian infantry combat vehicles and armored personnel carriers, and troops literally, as the Ukrainians say, surrendering to Ukraine, saying we came here as peacekeepers, we did not come here to fight, we will not fight our fellow people, and giving up their weapons. Whether it's psyops, whether it's psychological warfare or information warfare, that's another story. But the fact also remains that the Russians haven't been able to successfully take over Kharkiv, which is why perhaps the use of cruise missile and taking down civilian infrastructure, Shiv.
It's, these images are continuing to stream in. There are, two videos on our screen. First of that cruise missile attack on that administrative building in Kharkiv. The second image is what the government has put out of the aftermath, the result of that attack. All that debris just lying around there, broken pieces of concrete and mangled metal just strewn all around there. The government says these are pictures of that precise site where the missile had actually struck. So that's the damage that appears to have been done in that particular area. No information just yet about the loss of human life in that area. We don't know if that building was evacuated before the missile strike, but this is very close to the Freedom Square in Ukraine's second largest city. These are big European cities, ladies and gentlemen. This is not, these are not obscure locations. These are big, built-up, historic European cities. Ukraine is a former member of the Soviet Union, and these large medieval style buildings that have been built there have been there for years and years together. And some of those buildings appear now to be under attack. A center of government, a center of administration under attack in this latest attack that has been captured on camera. It's become very rapidly the most shared video right now. We're showing you every video, but we're also putting into context that the cruise missile attack in Kharkiv is now officially the most quoted and shared video coming in on day 6 of President Putin's invasion of Ukraine. Is this a symbol and an indicator and a tipping point for how things are going to play out in the rest of Kharkiv, and especially in Kyiv, the capital city of Ukraine? Is the biggest question right now. Gaurav Sawant says that an escalation is almost certain. Every indication, whether it is in the air, whether it is in the armed convoys on the ground, whether it is the communications that have apparently been intercepted by intelligence agencies in Kyiv, whether it is the possibility of a communication blackout, whether it is the warning signs given out by Russia, whether it is the warning that's been put out by the Indian government asking its people to leave Kyiv as soon as possible. Everything has come together as an ominous cloud of threat and fear over the city of Kyiv, that a big mother of assaults is perhaps very imminent, very, very close. Could be in the next few hours, could be 24 hours, could be 48 hours. But the window for Russia is seen to be closing, and President Putin may be on the back foot, wanting to wrap it up and take the advantage, because right now he senses that the West has smelt his weakness, that he is not able to reach his objectives and military objectives that he wanted to, with a great deal of shock and awe and firepower right at the start. But could that have just been an appetizer? And could the main course of this invasion now be at Kyiv's doorstep? That's the big question.